What? 4.
I need to change that. Alright guys, so here's the fan we're going to be installing today. This company sent it to me free of charge. They wanted me to make a video installing it, and they're not paying me for this. I'm not doing a review video or anything like that. I'm just installing it. So anyway, so we're installing a 52-inch ceiling fan. It's flush mount. It does have a DC motor, and it says it's up to 70% more efficient. It also comes with a remote control, so there's no pull chains or anything like that. Anyway, I'll put a link down in the description below where you can get this model that I'm installing and the other ones they offer as well. Let's go ahead and get started. Alright guys, so here's our base plate. And as you see, it's got a little hook right there. So we're going to use that to actually attach the main part of the fan, the motor and all that here in just a minute. But the first thing is we're going to put this on. Alright guys, we got our base plate here installed. I've already hooked up my ground. I've got it connected to my box because there's not, I live in an old house and there's not actually a ground wire run to each individual place. So if you have a ground wire connected, make sure and connect it to it. I'm just connecting mine to the box. I didn't show that because it's kind of difficult to get a shot of that. Anyway, so we've got our base plate here. We're going to go ahead and tighten it up. We've got these 2 screws that will attach to your box. It's just going to be like taking off your old one. It's not a big deal or anything. So we're going to tighten these up. Just make sure and get them nice and snug. All right, so we've got it nice and snug. It's not going anywhere now. All right, guys, now we're going to go ahead and install our DC motor controller right here. Let's see if I can get it in frame here. This is your DC motor controller. This is actually what your remote control is going to control. It's going to control what turns on and off from your remote to turn it on and off on the fan, because there's no pull chains or anything like that. All right, so basically it's pretty simple. I'm just gonna twist up these loose wires a little bit here, and we're gonna connect black to black and white to white. Now, before you have any bare wires like this showing, you want to make sure that there is no power on. I've already turned the power off, but to double check and to show you guys, I'm gonna turn on this voltage detector, and I'm gonna touch it to each of these, and you'll see it's not going off. You want to make sure that there's no power going before you touch any wires, and that's before you take anything loose or put anything back on. Always double check. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to attach our black wire to our black wire. Black wire to black wire. That's right, James. You tell them all about it. All right, you want to make sure it's good and snug. Got it. All right, now we're going to attach the white wires together.
That's right. On black.
All right. And you'll want to attach your ground wires as well. All right, guys, so here is our motor that goes to your fan. It's got all your electrical components and everything in it, and that's what's going to plug into here. Now, to make this a little bit easier, I showed you this hook on this far side before. So what we're going to do is there's a hole right here. There's a solid hole. There's 2 of them. And then there's 2 that have these slots. So we're going to take one of these solid holes. I've got it on the opposite side here. And we're just going to hook it on our little hook. Just put it right through there. That way it'll hold the weight of it up while you connect this. All right, guys, so our next step is going to be connecting just these connectors here. It's not a big deal. There's a really small one here and a large one. And the 2 large ones are going to snap together. Just line them up, snap them right into place. And the smaller one's going to do the same thing. Line it up, snap it into place. So all our wiring is done for our fan. All right, guys, so now that we've got our wires connected, As I showed you before, you have these slotted pieces and these solid pieces. Your screw holes there. And so basically what you're going to want to do, let me hook this on here. We've got two of them on opposite sides screwed in about halfway. So I've got one here and one directly across from it screwed in about halfway. The other two, we don't have our screws in. So we're going to line those up on these little slotted ones, and then we're just going to twist it into place. Now before you tighten anything else up, we're going to go ahead and put in the other two screws. That way it doesn't go anywhere. You may have to kind of move it around a little bit to line them up. You don't want to completely snug anything up yet. All right, once you have all four in place, you can go ahead and tighten all of them up. I'm going to start with the one that's the hardest to get to. Just get them nice and snug. You don't have to over tighten them or anything. All right, guys, now it's time to put on our fan blades. And as you can see right here, you have two of them that are close together, two screw holes that are close together, and then there's a little bit further of a gap between them, two more that are close together, and so on and so forth. The ones that are close together are going to be where your fan blades actually sit. There's two bolts that hold them in place, and you want to put them there. And then that further gap, the one that has a wider gap, is going to be where your two fan blades meet. All right, so there should be a bag that has several parts in it. It's going to have these long bolts like this. It's going to have a little washer like I've already got on here. And then you're going to have this little metal piece. All right, now let me show you how you want to put these on here. So you'll see the way our fan blade is. You'll see that there's a little recess right here. That's the part you're going to actually want to put your bolts in. So we're going to take our metal piece, line up on these holes, and then I find it's easier to go ahead and just push these bolts with the washers on them straight through. Just like this. I'll see if they'll stay in place as I'm showing you here. So I've got them lined up just like this. And once you got them that way, it's a lot easier to screw this in place. So what we're going to do is find one with a smaller gap here. It looks like right here, like I was telling you earlier. So we're going to get our screwdriver on here, line it up with our hole, and we'll start this. And then we're going to kind of move it around and make sure we line it up. And you'll have to move it. Whoop, oh no, y'all can't see very good, sorry. You'll have to move it around to kind of line up your screws, and you're going to get those nice and snug. Just like that. You don't want to over tighten these. Just want them nice and snug. So we got our first one on. We're going to go ahead and install our next two, and then we'll move on to our light. Let me go get the next blade, and we'll go ahead and install it. All right, James, do you want to hand this to Daddy when I get up on the ladder? Don't drop it. You got to be careful with it. Let me climb up the ladder. Okay, now I need it.
Here we go.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you, buddy. I don't know what I would do without you. James is my big helper.
This is my big helper.
You're my big helper. Your name is James, buddy.
This kind of that's friendly.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing. All right, like I said before, we want to make sure these are nice and snug, but you don't want to over tighten them. They do have that metal bracket, so it won't eat into the wood or bite into the wood really easy, but you don't want to crank down on this and end up breaking something. Okay, James, we need the last blade. All right, I'm going to hand it to you, and then you hand it to me when I get on the ladder, okay? That's the last one. Hold up.
Here you go, Daddy.
Oh, thank you.
Last blade is
The last blade. All right, same thing. We've got our blade. We got our little metal bracket. All right, we're going to go through and make sure all of these are nice and snug before we go to the next step. All right, guys, now we're going to install the base plate for our light. And you're going to see these three little screw holes right here. That's what you're going to attach it with. There's three little screws here. And we're going to take this and line it up with the the 3 closest to the center. I'm gonna try and do this without getting in y'all's way. I'm gonna do the best I can with it. So I find the easiest way to do it is to take one of the screws, put it through one of the holes, and then I can line up the first one. That'll give me a good starting point here. And with anything, like anything else, you don't want to tighten these up until you've got all of them in place. So, got our next one here. Kind of line it up. Get it nice and started. There we go. And then our last one should be pretty well in place. You shouldn't have to move it around too much to line it up. There we go. All right, so we're gonna screw all these down. Make sure they're nice and snug. All right, everything's nice and snug. All right, guys, now we're gonna install our lights, which is actually just a circle with a bunch of LEDs on it here, as you can kind of see there. All right, so here's where the guessing and checking comes into play. You're gonna notice there's a lot more screw holes than what you need. All right, so first thing we're gonna do is go ahead and connect this. This gives it power. So we've got our one connector here. If I can line it up. Snap it into place. So like I said, it takes a little guessing and checking, and I didn't want y'all to have to sit here and watch me do this for an hour. Like I said before, this part, I'm really not thrilled about the design of this. Basically, I would line this up in the center, and you would think that these 3 holes would be cut out for those 3 screws we just put in, but they're not, oddly enough. So we've got that one in. And basically, like I said, I lined it up with a big center hole here, and then I just kind of spun it around until I found one that matched this outer hole. And then you just kind of move it around until you find the next one. You definitely don't want to over tighten these because of those screws that are underneath them that you would think would line up with there, but they don't. But you know, whatever. It is what it is. But yeah, it's just these 3 screws that go in here. You're just gonna snug them up a little bit. You don't want to, like I said, you definitely don't want to over tighten these. All right, now we've got that in place, and this wire here, it won't cause no issues or nothing. It just kind of hangs down. The last thing we got to do is to put our diffuser on. Take this little glass dome that they've got. It's a little diffuser. Slide it in there, twist it into place. All right, the fan itself is now installed. All right, guys, I know this is a little bit of a weird angle, and you can definitely see the tripod in the shot, but it'll be all right. So basically, you see the controller here. You have the power button on the top. That actually turns your fan on and off. And then these buttons right here are the only ones that control your light. But it's pretty neat. You can turn it on and off with this center button. You kind of see it says light on and off. Then you can dim it or you can brighten it up. And then there's 3 different color temperatures. You got tungsten, daylight, and then somewhere right in the middle, basically. There's 6 speeds to your fan, 1 through 6. You have a 2-hour delay, a 4-hour delay, and I think this is called natural breeze. I've not used that one yet, so I don't quite understand it. I'm assuming that it will gradually pick up and blow for a certain amount of time, that it'll slow down or something like that. And then right here in the middle, you have your reverse button. So you can switch it from winter mode to summer mode, basically blowing the air down or sucking the air up, depending on what you're wanting. So that's the layout of the controller. It's actually pretty neat. But yeah, let me show you the actual fan and how it's working. All right, guys, so here's our fan installed. We'll go ahead and turn the fan on. We'll just put it on the lowest speed. It does have a little bit of a delay, just so you're aware, so it may take a second or two. And if you turn the light switch off and back on, the fan will automatically kick on, and so will the light. Just a heads up on that. But yeah, this is on 1. We'll jump up to about midway, so 3. It takes a second to get up to speed also. And then you put it on, I'm going to go ahead and put it on 6 to show you the speed of it here. I don't know if you can hear the air moving or not, but it's moving pretty good. And the shape of the fan is actually pretty neat. Most of the ceiling fans that I've had in the past, they blow the air kind of out. This one pretty well blows straight down, which is kind of neat, depending on where you're at in the room and everything. I've seen them on like marinas and stuff like that. Maybe not this exact brand, but one's very similar to this. And if you're sitting right underneath it, you can definitely feel the airflow. Anyway, so there's the fan. It works pretty good. Like I said, it's got a 2-hour delay, a 4-hour delay, and then the natural breeze setting, which I've never really messed with. All right, now I'm going to show you the light here. So we got it turned on here now. This is the daylight mode. This is the middle of the road one, and then you have your tungsten light right here. And you can brighten it up. Pretty bright. I don't know how well you can actually see it. It may be blown out completely now. But it brightens up pretty good, and it dims down really low, actually. So, yeah, so this is actually a pretty neat fan. It was sent to me to be installed to make this video. I didn't have to pay for the fan or anything like that. They just wanted me to make this video for them. And honestly, I needed a new fan, as you've seen in the beginning of the video. But anyway, I'll put a link down in the description below to where you can get this model, and they offer several other ones. But I hope you enjoyed this week's video. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you next week.